Good afternoon. Well, it's good afternoon from Perth anyway, and greetings to everyone in other time zones. My name's Melissa Garnsworthy. I'm from the University of Western Australia, and it's my pleasure to introduce Masood Sefika from Imperial College London. Masood's paper is entitled The Classroom Response Systems for Active Learning in a Virtual Classroom. And there'll be 20 minutes and 10 minutes Q&A at the end. And just to let all the audience know that you're being recorded at the moment, so you may wish to turn your cameras off until the Q&A at the end. You can raise your hand using the icon at the top if you want to ask any questions. Alternatively, you can put the questions in the question tab on the right. Okay, thanks very much, Masood. I'll hand over to you. You can start whenever you're ready.
Thanks a lot, Melissa. Hello, everyone, and thanks for the introduction. As Melissa mentioned, I'm going to talk about the classroom response systems for active learning in a large physics classroom. I'm currently in the Department of Physics at Imperial College London. The work that I'm presenting today is mostly based on the work that I did during my MA degree in teaching and learning in higher education in University College Cork in 2018 and 19. I will add a more recent experience as well. And thanks to Marian McCarthy, that was my MA supervisor at the time. In 2018, before pandemic, I was asked to teach physics to first-year students, non-physics students, in a classroom with 400 students. And at the time, I was thinking, what's the best way to engage a student and have some kind of active learning in that classroom? That was the motivation for this study. So in this talk, first, the main part of this talk, I would cover the instructional tools that I use for this classroom, including a classroom response system that was mainly Mentimeter in a large physics classroom. And that work, as I mentioned, was done in University College Cork. And then I would add more example of using Mentimeter in teaching physics at Imperial College London. We all know that large university classes are usually being looked at as disadvantaged by students and the staff because of the minimal contact between the student and the staff, and also because it's almost impossible to have some interaction in a large classroom. Lecturers usually have low motivation and minimal student involvement with material. It has been studied a lot, and also several studies show that students often do reasonably well in traditional exams, but if we look at their understanding, they usually have a shallow understanding. In physics, it has been shown that students learn much better by doing something rather than watching someone doing something or talking about the subject. I was trying to create active learning in this classroom, and I knew that if students do something during the lesson, I can engage them, and in that case, it would be more likely for them to attend the lectures. So I tried to create active learning environment that builds on universal design for learning, and I had to provide multiple means of representation, actions, and engagement in my teaching. So that was my challenge. So I tried to use a wide range of instructional tools in order to enhance the quality of my teaching. So let me give you some background about the course first. It was a combined course, physics for biomedical, environmental, and food science students, physics for biological and chemical science students, and physics for the environmental science students. They were the second year students, the rest were first year students. They were around 340 students, and this course was taught during the second semester of 2018-19 in UCC in Ireland. And I had 24 lectures for this module. So you see, it's already challenging. There are students that have a little interest in this course, because most of them, they are not going to use this course in future. Some of them, they had physics in high school. Some of them, they didn't have any physics. So I needed to engage them. So therefore, in order to create a UDN environment, I tried to use several instructional tools like PowerPoint, document camera visualization, Mentimeter videos, and also some physics demonstration to provide students with multiple means of presentation and engagement. So the special tool that I liked during this course was Mentimeter, a type of classroom response system that some people call them as personal response system or a student response system, but it doesn't matter. Everyone knows what they mean. And I guess that since 2018 till now, everyone started using them. So I also used clickers and Padlet each one in only one lecture, because I wanted to give them more variety. When I say clicker, it's the old-fashioned clickers that they had devices. And especially the Padlet, I didn't use for what is designed to use for. I used Padlet later and for other courses, and I found it fabulous. But for this course, wasn't very relevant. So before I start, I'm going to ask you, especially for people who probably haven't used a Mentimeter before, have you ever used a classroom response system? You can vote by entering this code to menti.com. I will try to add the link to the chat as well, so whatever it's easier for you. If you click on the link, you can answer the question. Even if you are watching this after, when it's not live, I guess that you can still vote and see the results. So as there might be some delay, I continue with my talk. Yeah, oh, that's great. We already have some responses. So 3 people already says that they have used, and that's great. Later, I will ask you which classroom response system you are using. So we might have, we might share our ideas, and I will also ask you why you prefer that one. So that would be great to have more resources. So before starting this course, there was another question that I was engaged, and it was, is it better to use Blackboard or visualization or PowerPoint, especially for this course? And when I look at literature, there were mixed messages about using Blackboard or whiteboard. There were several studies in medical education, biochemistry, and psychology courses. And in one of them, for example, they looked at the usage of both, and the results shows that a student liked Blackboard more, and because they said that they better recall, beside being most preferred aid among medical students. However, there was another study in pharmacology, and they divided students to 2 groups, each of 150 students, and one group were using PowerPoint, and another group were using Blackboard. And at the end, The students in PowerPoint group answered in a better way to questions related to understanding and memorizing. And 85% of the students prefer PowerPoint and 15% preferred chalkboard. So, and also there was another research that shows that Blackboard teaching was preferred to PowerPoint presentation in teaching pathology by second-year student. And the other study, a student mentioned that PowerPoint presentation is useful for the student to make notes, but in Blackboard teaching, there is more involvement, more depth in the subject compared to PowerPoint teaching. And also a student can understand better in Blackboard teaching, and it generates more interest in the subject. In this course, I couldn't use Blackboard because of the class was huge. It was the largest lecture hall in UCC, but I used a camera visualizer, and also I used PowerPoint as well. I tried to use PowerPoint to generate interest and teach new ideas and display figures and GIFs inside PowerPoint. And then I used a visualizer to solve a physics problem or sometimes drive new equations. And then I asked the student how they found this. So I ran a survey and at the end of the course, and 169 students participated in this survey, and 59% of them confirmed that they attended at least 70% of lectures. When I asked about PowerPoint and visualizer, the results was very similar. The only difference was that for visualization, we had more great help here and also more little help here. So it was difficult to decide between these two. But when I asked between which one is better, visualizer, PowerPoint, or the combination, most students said a combination. 40% only said document camera, and 33% says PowerPoint. And then I asked students to identify the most effective tool between document camera visualization, PowerPoint, Mentimeter, and video for different aspects in the course, for making notes, active learning environment, memorizing the topic, solving the problem, generating interest, involvement in teaching, and the understanding of the concept. As you see here, for example, for making notes, you see that lots of people said PowerPoint, and also for helping to understand the concept and involvement in teaching and also memorizing the topic, they found it fantastic. For creating an active learning classroom, you see that the Mentimeter is the main one here, and also generating interest and involvement in teaching, also Mentimeter is great. So in summary for this image, a student find a document visualization especially helpful in solving problems. They also found Mentimeter useful in creating an active learning classroom as well as generating interest and involvement in teaching. And they also prefer PowerPoint in order to memorize the topic, making notes, and understanding the concept. And they confirm that while a lecturer wants to solve a problem, the best tool is document camera visualizer. And here are some comments from students. For example, one student says that document camera broke down how to approach solving problem. PowerPoint notes gave a concise yet informative overview of each topic. Mentimeter was useful in determining the extent of knowledge of each topic gained. And someone else said, they kept me engaged and I could determine how much work I need to do. So, and here are some specific comments about PowerPoints. Even though Mentimeter was fun, PowerPoint was best. Someone says PowerPoints sometimes got boring. Someone else said PowerPoint presentations are very helpful. And also about the document camera, the student says that document camera visualization is great tool as a student can follow along as lecturers solve the problem. Someone else said the camera was the best way to for me to learn. And about Mentimeter, there were several good comments about Mentimeter. I found that Mentimeter was the most useful tool used for my learning, as it allowed me to take part and test my knowledge on the topic being covered. It also allowed the lecturer to see if the class was struggling with the topic and if he needed to focus more on that area before moving on to the next topic. And it was great to see that students got the message. They know why we are using Mentimeter and they found it useful. And again, lots of nice comments that I'm not going to all of them, but in general, they were all positive. However, there were some unsupportive comments as well. For example, someone said they help a bit, especially for the class interaction, but I prefer to just take note on paper and work our questions on paper. Just gave us the answer, really. Lecturer should not rely on instructional tools and in technology solutions for teaching content. But the number of these comments were very low. So I mentioned that I compared Mentimeter and clickers as well. In one session, I used clickers, and then I asked them which tool they prefer. Most students said Mentimeter. I should mention that the Padlet wasn't used in a proper way in that session. It was only to introduce the students, oh, there is this tool as well. But I use Padlet later a lot, and it's a fantastic tools if you use that in a proper way. And also ask a student experience with Mentimeter. As you see here, I asked if they found the Mentimeter app easy to use. Only 3% says that it wasn't easy to use. I asked about the web access and reliability. 73% strongly agree that it wasn't a problem. When I asked about if they had sufficient time to answer, only 8% that said that they didn't have sufficient time. And when I asked if they think that the app like Mentimeter should be used in all large classrooms, 65% were strongly agree or agree, and only 12% were strongly disagree. And then I asked if they answered the Mentimeter question. 95% says they answered the Mentimeter question, and 97% they said that they had suitable device. And also I said students what they gain from Mentimeter. I can access my understanding of the lecture content relative to other students. I can gauge whether I'm following the lecture content. And you see that they are very positive. And also this one, I'm attentive to the lecture, I'm engaged in the lecture, I involve lecturing, learning during the lecture, and I interact with the lecture. Here, as you see, when we look at the result, the number of participants who strongly agree or disagree that by using Mentimeter they were involved in learning during the class are 4 times more than the students who strongly disagree or agree, or disagree or strongly disagree. And they submitted similar results for engagement, attentive, and when we ask them, they gauge whether or they are following lecture content. But around 47 of the participants said the Mentimeter didn't help them to participate in classroom. And also there are several comments about this. As you see, for example, one student says, please give more revision sheets and sample answer. These are 1 million times more helpful than Mentimeter, etc. However, the number of positive comments about Mentimeter were almost 10 times more than negative feedback. And for example, one comment said, the questions on Mentimeter helped because I got to interact without having to speak. And someone else that Clicker was more useful than Mentimeter as you couldn't see other answers. So your answer wasn't influenced by others. It is possible to hide answers in Mentimeter, and I'm using that after this survey. So to summarize of this part, the mixture of document, camera, and PowerPoint worked very well, and students were very happy with Mentimeter. I know that the time is over. As I mentioned, I have a couple of slides about the usage of Mentimeter at Imperial, 2 different experiences. If we had enough time after questions, I'm happy to come back to these 2 examples as well.
Thank you very much, Masood. Looks like some really positive feedback there. We'll open it up to questions at this time, so you can either raise your hands or enter your question in the question tab, and Masood, I'll let you address them. We've got a question from Marion. Marion, you can open your microphone and or camera if you like.
Yes, and I have.
Yeah, there you go.
Now there I am at last. Am I somewhere? You can hear me anyway. Masood, I know this work, of course, and congratulations. But one of the things that fascinates me looking back on it is the students who want the set of notes, you know, there in that third last slide. And even though, of course, not everyone will like the same method, I think this as well as one of the principles of universal design for learning but it's very interesting that they feel safe, some of them, only when they have, like, why don't you give us the sample answers? In other words, do we one thing for ourselves? What are you still coming across that, Masood? Would they, in the current research, do they, you know, is it a more safer space? And maybe as well in the light of COVID and you know, the current climate, are they not taking as many risks? How do you see it?
It's always the case, it seems. Even at Imperial, in one of the courses, we ask students what they want. They enjoy Mentimeter, they enjoy flipped learning approaches, but at the end, they want more exam type question in the class, and because they are worried about exams. And something else that I always mention to my colleague is that it seems that we have changed the way that we are teaching, but we are still having the same assessment that we had before. And before changing the way that we are assessing students, they are still want the same type of education because they think that it helps them to have the better mark at the exam. It seems that exams that we are having, in most cases, they don't hit where they should. For example, this year we had, when we moved to online teaching and examination, we know that the exam was open book. So we had to remove all the question that was about memorizing the stuff. And because of that, the average of marks was much lower, and because the students found it more difficult, and it showed us that before that, lots of the students were getting marks only for memorizing stuff that I'm not sure is useful or not.
Yes.
So we definitely need to change that.
Yes, yes. And I think that the blended learning, you know, is the way forward, and a multiplicity of methods as you were trying, you know, it's very good, I think, to keep,
definitely,
you know, and I think that a little of the PowerPoint, then at least that might satisfy some of them. Thanks a million, Masood. Great work. We miss you as UCC. It's a pity he left us to go to Imperial College London. So what can we do? And lovely to see you, Masood.
Thank you very much. Thanks.
Thanks for that question, Marion. Okay, we have some time for another question.
I think so.
Yeah. if there are any other questions. If not, Masood, would you like to address your last couple of slides?
Yes,
we have a couple of minutes.
I would be happy to mention them. I have two different examples from Imperial. The first one is for the atomic physics course. It's a second year course. There are 10 lectures, and we provide pre-reading lectures, pre-reading materials and pre-reading quizzes there. It's only to give some overall picture of the course. And we have problem sheets, and we have 7 pre-reading material and questions. And Richard Thompson is presenting this. At the part of this course, we are having some Mentimeter questions during the course. This one shows that that's the corpus of the classroom observation protocol. I'm not going to the detail. It's going to be another talk. But this plot shows for different lecture number 1 to 10, what the instructional tools that lecturer used during the course. And all green ones here are the time that he used Mentimeter and discussion about the Mentimeter about the course. This is plot for 2019 and 20, and this is the plot for last year that was online course. But even in the online course, we had Mentimeter questions, and also we tried to use some of the videos from a year earlier for the Mentimeter discussions. And when we ask the students how they found Mentimeter, more than 60% says it was fun and helpful. 10% says fun but not helpful, and 30% said helpful but not fun. And few people says waste of time. And when we ask them, please say one thing that you like about the Mentimeter, about the course. Several people mentioned Mentimeter, and there were some nice comments about Mentimeter. And the last example is using Mentimeter in order to collect data from the students. We have seminars, active learning seminars in these lovely classrooms. There are classrooms that are designed for active learning. Students can sit in a group of 5, 6 together and work together. In one of the first seminars that they have, we are trying to teach them to do experiments. And in one experiment, we asked them to measure gravity of Earth, G. It's a very simple experiment with pendulum, and they do the measurement, and I asked them to upload the results to a Mentimeter, and this is directly coming from Mentimeter. A student can see this, and using these figure, I can show, I can teach them a new topic. For example, I show that, oh, you see that the result that you got here is very similar to a normal distribution. It's a fantastic way of teaching students about this idea. It's an important topic in math and physics, and I think I found it fantastic that I can use Mentimeter to get the result very fast and teach students. So that's it, and that's I thought it's good to mention other ways of using Mentimeter as well.
Thank you very much, Masood. Yeah, I can see how we can use that in a lot of different classes, and it's a good reminder to all of us how we can increase the amount of active learning we have in our classes, large and small. So thank you very much for sharing that today. We really appreciate your time. If anyone would like to contact Masood after the session, if they have any further questions, you'll find his name on the attendee list, and below his name. Here's my email address as well. Thanks very much, Masood. Yes. Yeah, his email address, or you can use the chat function that you'll find in the attendee list within Canopy as well. So thank you very much, everyone, for attending, and thanks again, Masood, for your time today.